Celtics win, man. Music can roll a little bit longer. You know what I'm saying? It's better when we win. The music can roll. Woo! Big bounce back win for the C's, guys. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back into the Celtics Talk Weekly Post Game Show. I am your host, Rob Atayan. With me are my two co-hosts, Finn Sands, aka Celtics Insiders, and then my man Ian Angelo. Guys, vibes are much better. Vibes are much better tonight as the Celtics were able to make a statement on the road in Miami, 104-84. Jason Tatum had 22 points alongside Jaylen Brown with 22. We're going to dive in all of that. But, guys, I want to say something before you guys give me your thoughts and takeaways. I think it is absolutely phenomenal. The Celtics were able to hold the Miami Heat to 84 points and still manage to win the game by 20. I think that is a very, very, very great sign. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say and what you got for me on your thoughts and takeaways from tonight.
Well, yeah, defense wins games, defense wins championships, and we saw that tonight. We look at Game 2 versus Game 3 on the defensive side, and the contests were there, the switching was there, and then the three things that stood out to me from Game 3 versus Game 2 is the intensity, the defense, and Kristaps Porzingis. First off, let's start off with Porzingis. He started off the game hot, which led to the Celtics throwing the first punch. Very impressive by him, and that was definitely huge. Next up, you look at the intensity, fighting through screens, contesting three-point shots. It was definitely there. And just overall, the Celtics defense, they were just so solid. And I said it last post-game show, it's like they want to be really good. Like they can be any good. They can be really good anytime they want, but they only choose to sometimes. And tonight was one of those nights where they went all in. And, I mean, it showed 84 points, pretty remarkable. I felt like everyone had a solid game on both ends of the floor. And I'm very proud and impressed with the way they responded.
Same. Honestly, Rob, you were mentioning it before. The Celtics allowed 84 points and still won by 20. The Celtics allowed 84 points, shooting 29% from three.
Right.
And I don't know, what was the whole thing? The Celtics aren't going to win any playoff games if they can't shoot the three.
Right.
I mean, they look pretty good tonight, if I'm being honest. So, but yeah, this was 100% so much different than Game 2. They came out acting like they were down 0-2 in this game. Like they just had so much energy from the jump. The defensive intensity was just amazing to watch, and everybody stepped up. It wasn't just the starting lineup. It was Peyton Pritchard. It was Sam Hauser. You know, it was Luke Cornett in the limited minutes he was there. Like it just felt like everybody was there. Derek White, the greatest player of all time. Drew Holiday, who led the team in plus minus with 3 points and 6 assists. Like it was just an all around amazing performance. And this is just what you want to see, just pure dominance.
Well, you can call me nuts, but I think this is like in my mind a must win. I don't think it's nuts to say that. I think this is a must win. I really liked what I saw the adjustment wise defensively. I think the players, quite frankly, they just cared tonight on the defensive end, right? I think they that shows you, when this team tries on defense, they're so difficult to beat. And Ian, what you said, I mean, it's been such a question mark with this team, whether or not they're going to be able to kind of get into their bag of tricks if their shot's not falling. I think they absolutely did that tonight. I loved the adjustments defensively. We're running them off the 3-point line. I think they were like third quarter, there was like the Heat went on a 10-2 run, and the Celtics kind of resorted back to, I posted on Instagram on some like Game 2 habits where they were kind of settling ISO, and then, on the defensive end, they were getting kind of lazy. But I really liked what we did tonight. I think this is the Celtics brand of basketball, Finn, that you talked about last show was exactly what we saw tonight. And I think, I'd like to see them do it. I think in one of these games against the Heat, when it's kind of a slugfest all game and it's back and forth, I'd like to see that out of them. But I mean, again, I can't complain about a 20-point win, right?
Yeah, facts. Like everyone says live or die by the three, but I think they shot 29% tonight. And a win like this tells me that they don't really live or die by the three as long as their defense is up to par. Like what we saw tonight on the defensive end is championship level defense. That's the defense that we should expect every single night. And when we play this level of defense, when the Celtics do, they're just a whole different team, because then you have to think about transition play as well. Like tonight in the first quarter, I think they held Miami to 12 points. Like, a lot of these missed shots from Miami led to straight transition buckets from the Celtics. And that's just another dynamic part of this Celtics team. So that was another thing that I liked. And honestly, as long as this defense can stay consistent and play this well, it doesn't matter if they're shooting 29% from three. I mean, obviously we'd prefer for them for that number to get up, but their defense is what's going to lead them to the championship.
I think that's like, for me, I think that's, if they are defensively, I think that's like dating back to 2022. That's what made them so special. It's kind of why they were in mostly every game they played. If they show up every night, you're going to at least be in the game against any team. And I think that's really important for these guys to kind of wrap their head around. I think tonight they were just super focused, and the whole thing was just really, it was very good. It's what you were looking for. And I think the Celtics, for me at least, I'm sure for them, a win is a win in the playoffs, right? Every game's different. But I didn't want to see like a 3-point win tonight. I needed to see them take control of the series, especially what Jimmy Butler has been talking something fierce with this team. So I want to see him. I really want to see these guys, respond, especially on Monday too. I hate to like kind of jump forward on us, but like, I think we know this team can respond. We've seen it time and time again. I want to see them like not make life harder on themselves, right? Really step on their throats in this series, because if you go up 3-1 coming home, it's really, Miami's going to be deflated. So I want to see that, but 10-3 guys for the Celtics when playing in Miami. What is up with that? Why is it? Is there something that we don't know about that they're doing before the game that they got going on? I mean, what's happening with Miami? Why do we like playing here so much?
I mean, beautiful weather. I mean, there's a lot of fun extracurricular things to do down in Miami.
Right.
It's pretty relaxing atmosphere, I would say. So I feel like, I don't know. The Celtics have always been good on the road, though. The Celtics have always been good on the road in the playoffs. It's always been at home where it feels like they've had the problems. So I'm not even surprised they came out and dominated this game, because they are just that good on the road, it feels like, every single year.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what it is about Miami. They love the atmosphere. It's not like there's a whole lot of opposing fans they have to deal with. So most of them were Celtics fans today. So it wasn't, honestly, it felt like another home game, if we're being honest.
It's funny because like Miami, they're the weirdest fans in the NBA, because they don't show up for like, they show up from like quarters 2 to 3, and if it's a blowout, then they're out of there at the end of 3. So maybe that's why. But I do want
a lot more extracurricular things to do in Miami than watch Miami Heat game. So
yeah, they'll tell you it's traffic though. So
oh yeah, it's traffic.
Let's talk a little bit about Kristaps here. He is tonight's player of the game. 9 shots, 5 of 9, very efficient, 3 of 5 from behind the arc, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks. He added a steal in there as well. I feel like this was a game that not only the Celtics needed to play well in, but Kristaps in particular. It was funny because in his post-game his press conferences in practice, he was very quiet, right? You could tell he had never really been in the spotlight like this before. He really hasn't been in too many playoff runs, especially as the 1 seed. When you guys look at Kristaps and what he did tonight, what was different than what happened? Obviously, the shots falling, but what really was between the offensive and defensive impact that he held? What did the Celtics kind of do better, do you think, tonight to get him involved?
Well, I thought the floor space was a lot better tonight. I think Kristaps' ability to spread the floor has been huge for the Celtics all year, especially against the Heat, considering how good of a defender Bam is. And they didn't match up on tonight with Kristaps. They played Celtics basketball and they let it flow, and it just came so much more naturally to Kristaps. You know, when you look at the way they played, it's not like KP was just living in the paint trying to force up post-ups. Like, I definitely think he took less post-up shots today compared to last game. When Bam was in the paint, Kristaps was always there for a kick out, and we've seen it. Those are shots that KP can make, and it paid off tonight. And when he makes a couple of those shots, it drives some more players out of the paint. It opens it up for the other guys. And he's just the X factor. That's why Brad Stevens got him. We know his value to this team. And that's just exactly what he does. So I think that was important. And then, you look on the defensive end too, his shot blocking ability. He was playing good perimeter defense. Like, it was just a super versatile, balanced game for KP, and he made all the difference.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Porzingis is he was just comfortable tonight. Like you said, Finn, like they weren't matchup hunting. They weren't trying to get him post-ups every time. They were just letting him play his game, and he was doing well. I was really impressed with his defense on Bam. There were a lot of possessions in the first 2 games where Bam was just overpowering Kristaps. And in this game, it just felt like Porzingis just hunkered down, and he was pretty much a brick wall out there anytime. I mean, Bam was obviously going to make some of the shots because he's still Bam Adebayo, but like, I don't know, his defense on Bam tonight was absolutely huge, and I felt like it kind of stifled any momentum Miami was ever going to get.
Yeah, and the Heat were getting clearly frustrated at a point in the game with Kristaps and really the Celtics defense, and I think that kind of goes back to what we said kind of after game 2 was like just effort defensively, and I think that's what you saw Kristaps tonight. There was one play in particular that stood out to me, and it was a Caleb Martin transition, and Kristaps was back in the standing at the free throw line, and Caleb was pushing the pace. And there was a play in game 2 where Hero was in that same situation with Kristaps, and Hero rose up for a pull-up 3, and Kristaps didn't really play it. Tonight, Kristaps anticipated that, and he played that really well. And I think that kind of shows you where the Celtics were at mentally, where they had done their film, they had done, everything they needed to do, the adjustments, they were aware what needed to get done. So I think Kristaps, man, you love to see a good Kristaps game because, when he's going, it's so hard to beat these guys when you have him moving. And, I like what you said, Finn. I think offensively, they weren't like giving Kristaps the ball just to give Kristaps the ball. I think Kristaps did a good job. I think he took a little too many of those little midi pull-ups, but I will say he did a great job of getting to the free throw line from that. So, those calls won't always be there. So I hope he can realize when they're not there to steer away from it. But tonight they were there. He attacked it well. And I thought that was big time for us. This is something I want to talk about. The Kristaps, we have to win the game. He showed up, man, and credit to him. But when you think about Kristaps and the Celtics moving forward, guys, Game 4 kind of seems like a trap in my eyes because you just came off this great win. Miami's going to make adjustments. In my eyes, I see Game 4 as the not the closeout game, but it's like the final blow in my opinion. You go up 3-1 against these guys coming back home. This team isn't going to be too, set on coming back down 3-1. But for you guys, what needs to happen moving into Game 4 with this team?
Got to continue what they're doing. That's whatever they did tonight, just do that again. Yeah. But like, honestly, the biggest thing they need to do is just keep their defensive intensity because that's going to be the biggest factor when it comes down to the Celtics winning. If they keep pressuring the 3-point line like they did tonight and they don't let Miami just shoot a bunch of wide open threes, even if they're making them or not, just keep the same intensity that you've been having this entire time and you're going to be fine. I think the Celtics will easily be able to win this series if they just keep their intensity.
Yep, I agree. It's just Joe Ball. Like the talent's there. We saw it tonight. As long as the defense is up to par, like, I don't know, this is just like a really, really tough series for Miami. I think the game plan for Miami, it's probably going to be a completely different team come Monday night.
Right.
I think there's a chance it could be one of these games where it comes down to the final couple minutes of the games. So that's where I'm interested to see what the Celtics would do if that were to be the case. But it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be chippy. There's a couple things like I know Duncan Robinson. He's a guy that I had my eye on tonight. Like he didn't really play much. I could definitely see him, coming out in the first quarter and knocking some down. I don't know. I feel like the Celtics, we saw what happened after they got their first win. So
right.
They just need to have good intentions of keeping their foot on the gas pedal. And I mean, if they play Celtics basketball, swing that ball around, play this level defense, it's going to be really hard for them to lose. So,
and I will say there is a clear indication even if you go back when the Celtics were down 0-3 last year up until what we've seen this year, when Tatum is moving the ball and guys are making their shots off Jason Tatum facilitating the game, we are so much like that's the best Celtics basketball against the Miami Heat is when Tatum is being a playmaker. Now that's not saying, he shouldn't hunt his shots because he absolutely should, But I feel like Miami's game plan with the Celtics obviously is, get handsy, make them uncomfortable. And I think it's also kind of to force Jason Tatum to do all of the work offensively, scoring wise. But when they struggle with is that when Tatum, their game plan is so heavily predicated on the fact of forcing Tatum and Brown to turn the ball over, that when Tatum and Brown are finding the open guy and making the right passes, I feel like we're so hard to, like, the Heat have such a, even with Butler, right? We saw it last year, even when Butler's playing, when Tatum specifically is running the offense, how he has been, I mean, it's night and day. And I think really, you ask me, yes, the difference between games, 2 and 3, definitely, Kristaps and the defense, but Tatum was playmaking much better tonight. He had 6 assists, but I bet if you went and you looked at some of those hockey assists, you could throw those in there too. So I want to see that out of JT and the Celtics. Obviously, the guys need to make them, but just keep finding those guys open. Because I think Tatum, it's going to be tough for him to score in bunches against the Heat, right? They're, like I said, their game plan isn't going to let him do that. They're a great defensive team. Bam's a phenomenal defender. So I feel like if you're talking Tatum, he has to just continue to be a playmaker, take what the defense gives him.
It's like, to me, it's in games 1 and 3, it's like super LeBron-esque.
Right.
It just, I mean, it's not like he's having 35 point games, but he is controlling the game. The pace revolves around him. Everything revolves around him. Like, he's setting up his teammates. He's making everyone around him better. I mean, and tonight the plus minus definitely showed plus 22, which was the second highest behind Drew Holiday. So as long as he controls the game, it's special. And I feel like that's another step that we've just seen in JT's game, for him just to be able to control the game and play point forward. So that was honestly something that I've noticed. And in game 2, it felt like they were matching the Heat's pace, whereas today they were playing Celtics basketball, playing quick. Right. And that was all through Jason Tatum. So
yeah, and the other thing about Jason Tatum is he shot 37% today. He was 28% from 3. I mean, 6 of 16, 2 of 7 is not terrible, but in years past, there were times where his shooting will affect his game, and he's grown so much from that nowadays it doesn't even really affect him. It feels like he was able to still be a contributor. I was really happy with his rebounding. It felt like he was attacking the glass the entire game, which was absolutely huge, because if the Celtics are allowing second chance opportunities, it tends to be a problem when it comes to some matchups when the Celtics play. So I was really impressed with Jason Tatum tonight. Obviously, scoring wise, shooting wise, it didn't look amazing on the box score, but if you actually watched the game, you would say that Jason Tatum was the most important player on the court.
Well, I feel like rebounding with JT is such a big indicator on where his mind's at, because I think you've seen games where, I remember one game last year against the Warriors at home, he was shooting terrible, but he had 19 or 20 rebounds. And it just shows you that when Tatum is locked in and focused, he's rebounding the ball. Going back to Finn's point on Tatum's pace, I think the reason why that makes life hard on Miami is because Miami depends so much on playing at Spoelstra's pace, which is slow and mucking up the game. It's so obvious that when Tatum is running the game and running at his pace, life is easy for him. And I think, we need to see more of that throughout the whole playoffs, really, because, each series is different. Each game is different. But if Tatum's moving the ball, we're in good position. But I do got to ask, third quarter, we saw a little scuffle, or not a scuffle, but we saw some words exchanged between Pritchard and Hero. Ian and I were joking about it before the show started. I gotta ask, man, who are we taking in a little street fight? We got Pritchard or we got Hero?
P. Come on.
We got P.
Yeah, P's got that dog in him. Yeah.
He's got that dog. He might not have the height, but he's got the dog, and so he's gonna.
I loved seeing that. Seeing that.
That was so
meet me in the back. Come on now.
Bro, the funniest thing was that Tyler Hero was trying to pick a fight with Sam Hauser of all people. Yeah. Everybody on the Celtics, and he chooses to pick on Sam Hauser for some reason. Sam kind of pushed him down, but still, it's Sam Hauser. It's not like it's Tatum or Brown or anything. Do that to Jaylen Brown and see what happens. Well,
and I will say though, funny. All jokes aside, I liked seeing that, especially from the bench guys, because it's I said it last show, don't let this team push you around, man. Like, there's no reason why the Miami Heat should be able to push the Boston Celtics around. And I love it. I love Pritchard. I love Hauser. I love what they've been doing. Because, you know, if you're not scoring, what's your impact? Oh, well, you brought some intensity, right? You got into Hero's face. You set this. You saw Al and you saw Drew. They were kind of like, all right, P, like, calm down, like, get on with it. But you need that intensity. It's the playoffs. You know, it's two rivals. It's two teams that don't like each other. So I love seeing that out of P because because quite frankly, you know me, you know what I said last time. You know, it's the playoffs. It's a rivalry game. You know, it's what you want to see. But I do want to talk about some JB too, and I do want to talk about Derek White. But let's address JB first, because out of the gate, it was pretty rough from Jalen. And I will say, I think he was trying to make a statement from Jimmy Butler's words. I think those had an impact on how he started the game. He started the game, guys, I believe 3 for 9. He finished it over 50%, 11 for 20. So a much more efficient, you know, kind of third quarter on from JB. But when you look at the first quarter versus what was happening after that, what was kind of the difference?
I think Jalen let the game come to him instead of forcing shots. And I think that made all the difference. Like, he started 1 for 6. Like the first shot he took was a step back 3 in the corner. And out of the gate, I think that wasn't the best look. Another thing is he was just calm tonight. I feel like Jaylen Brown's biggest struggle against Miami has always been turning the ball over. I feel like we've always had these games where he's had 5, 6 turnovers. And tonight he only had 1. And I just think he was getting to his spots. He knew his role. And after that first quarter, he was locked in playing Jaylen Brown basketball. So,
yeah, I think it was a little weird because he was like 3 for 9 shooting after the first quarter. And it did feel like he was just kind of chucking up a bunch of shots that he didn't really need to. But the fact that he finished 11 for 20 is kind of crazy because, like,
Right.
like I said, the start was like, oh, Lord, what are we doing here? But no, he really found his footing. And honestly, like, it's really just about him getting to his spots, because when Jaylen Brown is in his spots, whether it be the mid-range or, you know, just attacking the basket, it's going to go in most of the time because of how good Jaylen Brown is. And, I mean, he was great tonight. And also, he was another one with the rebounding. He had 8 rebounds tonight. That was another way that he was really engaged. So I was pretty happy with the way Jaylen Brown was able to bounce back from a bad start.
He's so good at, like, getting to his spots, like you were saying, and controlling the game to kind of a different type of pace. It's like this weird hybrid of, like, fast pace, slow pace that he brings. I thought first quarter, like I said, there's no doubt the Jimmy Butler words had a factor into how he came out. I think he wanted to come out with one of those classic hot JB starts. But, you know, like both of you said, those classic JB starts are, you know, just him taking what the defense is giving him. I think he was really ISO heavy in the first quarter, like super ISO heavy. Like, wasn't really too necessary. I remember sitting there, like, you know, kind of stalled the offense a little bit. And then I think, you know, once he kind of got his footing and he kind of, you know, calmed down and felt the pace of the game and got comfortable. I mean, that's exactly what he did. I mean, he had 33 or 31 in game 2, getting to the paint, doing his thing. So, I mean, there's no one on Miami that can really, you know, stick JB one-on-one. And I think he showed that. So, you know, for me, I love what I saw at JB, excuse me. We got to talk about D White, because it feels like every time D White has a bad game, it is a, like, no-brainer, no doubter that he's going to bounce back. He bounced back tonight, guys, and how big was it?
Absolutely love Derek White tonight. You know how big of a Derek White fan I am. I absolutely love Derek White, and honestly, that mini run that he went on to end the first half was just insanely fun to watch.
Right.
My favorite play was that missed free throw, and he came in and he was able to tip it back in. Like, Derek White's just perfect. Like, he does everything. You know, he's just there. He just does everything perfect. He's just there. Every single time he's put in the right situation, it feels like he makes the right decision. So, I mean, what else is there more to say? I love Derek White, and I love the way that he played tonight, because he was just like everybody else. He was aggressive on offense. It feels like he hasn't been very aggressive in game 2. In game 1, he was pretty aggressive, like, towards the end of the game. But when it came to last game, he wasn't very he wasn't really trying to do anything. So in this game, I was happy the way that he was playing. He was super aggressive. He was looking for his shot, and he played really well tonight.
Yeah, I think Derek White playing well is just a testament to how the Celtics played in general. Like, you look at game 2 versus game 3, the looks Derek White was getting, the floor spacing was so much better. Like, Derek White had a couple pull-up middies. He had a couple good three-point looks, and he was able to be aggressive because the paint was so open. And that's just due to Porzingis playing well and Tatum being such a good playmaker and controlling the pace of the game. So, we notice when Derek White has these really good games, everyone else is also playing really well. So I think Derek White playing the way he did connects so much to everyone else being on their toes and having such a strong performance.
I don't think there's anyone on the Celtics, maybe Jaylen Brown, that benefit better than Derek White does when the Celtics play fast.
For sure.
And I think it was an indication tonight that, it makes sense that he had a good game shooting the ball, because I think the pace was exponentially better and faster in game, 3 versus game 2. And, when Derek White is able to take those step in, like, wing catch and shoot threes, I haven't seen him miss many of them. And tonight, he was, he kind of struggled from behind the arc a little bit, but he was still able to, I think, get to his spots and play fast. And, that's the Derek White we need to see, getting to the rim. He's a phenomenal finisher at the rim, and I don't think he was doing that enough. But honestly, I think he was just able to get shots up, it felt like tonight. Game 2, it felt like he just wasn't able to get shots up. And really, it felt like no one other than Brown and Tatum were able to get shots up in game 2. And tonight, I think, you saw Kristaps succeed a little bit better. Drew is still, I would have liked to see him shoot the ball a little bit more, but he's doing, different type of impact in the series. Pritchard too. Pritchard was able to get some shots up. So it was just like, I think from, a whole team aspect of it, I think there is a clear indication that when the Celtics play fast, you're going to have a good game out of White. You're going to have a good game from the bench. It really is night and day when they play, with a good pace. And I think they did that tonight. And I think they have to do that because I will say, adjustment-wise for Mazzulla, I give him an A+ tonight. I loved what Joe did. I loved the timeouts he called. So again, for me though, I know Joe can bounce back, right? I know Joe can make an adjustments after a loss. For me, and this team can respond after a loss. I just want to see it after a win. I want to see, especially against the Heat, I want to see the Celtics come into game 4 with something else, because the Heat are coming out with something else. So I want to see the Celtics kind of, change of coverage or change a, whatever it may be. I don't know. But I don't know where you guys stand in terms of, Mazzulla and, his adjustments or whatever after a win. But for me, I got to see it before I feel comfortable, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that. For me, it's more so just like, it feels like it's more of like an effort and intensity thing for me. It's
Right.
like they just take their foot off the gas pedal. And we saw that at the start of game 2 and in the fourth quarter as well. So for me, if they can come out and throw the first punch like they did today or in game 1, it's going to be so much harder for Miami to come back. Like, we don't want it to be one of those games where Miami just hanging around, because I feel like it's the same script every time where they kind of just win those games. So as long as they understand and come out locked in like they have today in game 1, I just think play Celtics basketball, play fast, and everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty much just going to be, just make sure that, like I said earlier, you come out with the same intensity, because that's what you're going to need. And honestly, it's not really crazy to say if the Celtics are playing with that kind of defensive intensity throughout the entire playoffs. I mean, do you see them losing a game to any team if they're playing that kind of defense with that kind of energy? Like, they
maybe
could shoot,
Denver.
Maybe, but like,
right,
they can shoot 29% from 3. And they can still play this type of level of defense. And imagine if more of their threes are going in. Like, games are going to be like 40-point blowouts by the third quarter. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things. If the Celtics can continue the pace that they're at, obviously they're not going to be amazing every single game, and that's obvious. But if they can come out and just, play their hardest, that's going to be the difference maker, because they have the talent to beat anybody. It's just whether they want to show it or not. And
I will say the ball pressure was exactly what I wanted to see. Like, second half, Miami cleaned it up, right? As expected, Spoelstra kind of made an adjustment. That's what he does. It's his thing. But I feel like in the first half, what kind of kept us, and mind you, offensively, we were just as, not just as bad, but almost as bad as what Miami was doing in terms of making shots. But I think we were getting our shots. They just weren't necessarily falling. Second quarter, we kind of extended the lead from, the Tatum couple threes, Hauser couple threes. But, this could have been a game that Miami was in it and won if the Celtics didn't play defense the way they did. And I think that was kind of, the Celtics should have won game 2 if they just played better defense, if they closed out better, and they could be up 3-0. And so when I think what Ian's saying is, I mean, it's spot on. I mean, if this team shows up defensively, there is not much you can do about it, right? I mean, especially if the Celtics are making their threes, they win by 40 tonight. And I think that it was very impressive. It was an impressive win all around, and I'm very happy with it. I can go to bed, sleeping very happy, not upset. So, I think for Missoula, again, it's weird for me because when the energy isn't there, I feel like it's, the players, but when it is there, I feel like it's the coach. So tonight, I think in totality, I give everyone an A+. Generous, but a win in the playoff, I think, is a win. 20-point win's a 20-point win. But I do think that, we'll see what happens game 4. Is there a connection though? Luke Cornett, guys, he played tonight and the Celtics blew him out. So I'm not saying anything, but Luke Cornett may be the answer.
When Luke Cornett plays in a playoff game this season.
Yeah,
you want to know what's interesting? The series stats. Guess who's leading in points per game? It's gonna be pretty obvious, but
Jason Tatum.
Yeah, he's at 24.3 points a game. That's leading the team. Number 2 is Jaylen Brown with 24. Number 3 is Derek White with 16. Kristaps is 4 with 14. Al has 8. Sam 7. Drew 6. The fact that this team has so much talent that your number 1 player can average 24 points a game,
I know,
and you've still, in both games you've won by 20. It's just actually insane how much parity and talent the Celtics have on this team.
And it feels like against Miami that's how it has to be. I feel like it
has to be, yeah.
Right? I feel like against Cleveland or Orlando, whoever you see up next, it's it could be where Tatum's averaging 30 for a series, which you'll probably will see if we get out of this series, which I think we will. But for some reason against Miami, I feel like that's when you're playing well. I feel like when Tatum has 29 and Brown has 30 is when you're like, oh no, we're not doing something right, which is crazy to say, but I feel like that's a clear indication that they're doing the things they need to do. I feel like.
Yeah. Has Derek White ever played well and we lost to Miami? I feel like he's always good when we win.
Yeah. No, I think that's that's the difference maker. It's the role guys. You know what Tatum's going to give you, especially at this point of their career. They're hardly ever going to have, I feel like a super bad game.
I have another fun stat for you. Jaylen Brown has only 5 turnovers in 3 games. That's 1.7 a game versus Miami to start this series. He had 25 in 7 games last year.
Yep.
That's huge.
He's also healthy. He's also people are quick to shred him for having no left hand, but last year he was hurt too. People forget his wrist was messed up.
Yeah, because he cut his hand on the plant.
Oh, true. I forgot about that. Yeah.
I will say that could be Kristaps too. Spacing wise, they're not suffocated anymore, right? They have space to operate.
Yep, great point. Facts.
Which I think is huge. But again, I mean, we'll see what happens. Game 4. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with this series. Is just every time you beat Miami in the playoffs, if you're a Celtics fan, you take a deep breath. And I think every time you tip off against Miami, you're holding your breath until the final buzzer sounds, or you can hopefully relieve that. So tonight it was all Celtics throughout a wire-to-wire win for Boston, 104-84. Tatum and Brown led the way with 22 each. Porzingis had a bounce-back game, 22 points, 2 blocks. Derek White also kind of had a bounce-back game, 16 points, 3 assists. The Celtics will play the Miami Heat on Monday. Now, the time and TV network is to be determined. We'll keep you updated on that when we find out, but you'll find out as soon as we find out. So,
do you want to know what the scenarios are?
Let me hear it.
So if the Lakers lose tonight, the Celtics are playing on Monday at 7:30. If the Nuggets lose tonight, then the Celtics are playing on Monday at 7.
Does it say what TV broadcast?
Yeah, we want ESPN. They're better. They suck on TNT. So.
I think it's TNT regardless. Sadly,
damn it.
I know.
That's brutal. But all right, so we'll have you covered.
Yeah,
after the game.
it's TNT regardless.
It's TNT no matter what.
Yeah.
Do we know if
Oh wait,
Celtics...
no, actually it's the other way around. I'm sorry. Wait, if no Denver and Lakers game 5, they play at 7:00 on Monday. And if there is a game 5, they play at 7:30. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
I was looking at the wrong thing.
Do we know, before we close off the show, I have to ask, do we know if the Eastern Conference Finals is on TNT this year?
They think they make a last decision. I feel like, do they alternate, or I thought ESPN
they should alternate
like
because in 2022 we were on ESPN.
I thought
in 2023 we were on TNT. I think it just depends on the hockey playoff contract, because the only reason why ESPN can't do the games right now is because of their contract with the NHL and the NHL playoffs going on.
Yeah, I'd rather listen to Mike Breen and JJ Redick for sure. And so.
And I just hate TNT this year. It's been like haunting me. So.
Yeah, I didn't even watch it. I literally just watch it on NBC Sports Boston. I'd rather listen to Mike Gorman's final games. Absolutely. But again, guys, so we'll have you covered back here for Celtics Post Game Live after whenever it is, after the final buzzer. Come back here. I'm Rob, Finn, Ian, guys, from all of us. We thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, man, you know the deal. C's up 2-1. Big game 4. Go C's.